In my last video where I talk about what made Kratos immortal, there was a lot of confusion between being immortal and having godly powers / strengths. I'm here to hopefully clear things up. If we use logic from the old Greek scriptures, because after all, the old Greek games were loosely based on Greek mythology, we can claim that there's a difference between godhood and godly power / strength. Kratos gains his godhood, his immortality, from his worshippers and followers. He also gains some godly powers and strength from his followers as well, but most of his godly powers / strengths come from different artifacts, magic, gods, and just he naturally has a lot of godly strength because he's a demigod. Kratos' strength was stripped away from him when he drained them into the blade of Olympus. Only his godly strength was stripped away from him, not his godhood, not his immortality. This is because, again, Kratos' godhood relies on the faith of his followers / worshippers. But a minority of Kratos' strength, again, relies on the number of his followers / worshippers that he has. We know most of Kratos' strength is not from his followers because Kratos was already really strong before he was a god. And Kratos was a new god of war, so he would not have had a lot of followers right off the bat. This means that the power that was stripped from Kratos in God of War 2, when he drained his powers into the blade of Olympus, was the majority of his strength that he naturally had, and the strength / powers he obtained from artifacts and other magic. Kratos could have still had strength / powers that the quantity and the number of his worshippers gave him, and small amounts of strength from some artifacts / magic, but that strength could have still not been enough to survive the Colossus' crush. Some of Zeus's greatest feats, however, were displayed before the existence of humans, so again, this is because the number of worshippers contribute little to a god's strength, but over time, it sure does make a difference. With that said, it is the faith of the worshippers that keep the gods and as immortal beings. Before the gods, the titans and primordials had to rely on golden ichor and ambrosia that made their blood gold to maintain their youth. But after humans came along and became a huge part of the gods' lives, the gods began to rely more on the humans, on their sacrifices and prayers to remain immortal and maintain their power over natural and unnatural occurrences. That immortality that the ichor and ambrosia gave the gods was nothing compared to the immortality that the humans gave them. And it had reached a point where if you were a god whose immortality relied on ichor and ambrosia, you would be nothing compared to the gods who were worshipped. You would die and be forgotten just like the Greek god Pan did. But if we think about it, maybe that's why in God of War, the gods do not have golden blood, because they no longer need the ichor or ambrosia to maintain their immortality. They now only and solely rely on the immortality that the humans give them. But wait, why can't Kratos die at all then? Why is Kratos' immortality unconditional compared to the conditional mortality of the gods? Like I said in my previous God of War theory, Kratos cannot die because he is cursed to be viewed with his white skin for eternity. He is cursed to act as a reminder on the deeds Kratos committed to everyone and what happens when you act irrationally and in hunger for power. Kratos is an unconditionally immortal symbol, up for display for all to see for all eternity. His skin just makes up a part of the symbol that is Kratos, so that people can recognize who he is if they come across his path. Now, Corey Barlog said that Kratos' white skin was fading. This does not mean that it will completely wear off. It just means that it would be harder to recognize Kratos as the ghost of Sparta. This just makes Kratos an even stronger symbol, because once you piece the puzzle and find out Kratos is the ghost of Sparta, if you ever encounter him, it makes the discovery much more impactful. Corey Barlog specifically stated Kratos' skin was fading so that people in Norse do not recognize him so easily, so that when the Norse gods figure out that Kratos is the Ghost Immortal, that his skin is ash white, it makes the recognition much more significant and much scarier. Also, for those who insist that in God of War 2, the reason Kratos loses his Godhood and Immortality is because they were withdrawn into the Blade of Olympus, why is it then that in God of War 3, when Kratos falls into the river Styx, he doesn't lose his Godhood, he doesn't lose his Immortality, even though we see the same thing happen? His powers are withdrawn the same way it was withdrawn in God of War 2. Why is it that when Kratos comes out of the river Styx, he's still immortal? He's just weakened. It's because Kratos' Godhood and Immortality was never withdrawn into the Blade of Olympus. Anyway, I hope I was able to clarify some things up. Clear things up, I mean. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, subscribe, turn on the notification bell. I'll be looking forward to reading your comments as always, and I appreciate all the love. Thank you.
The people! The fires!
Shh! Stay close, Calliope.
Mother, I'm scared. Are they coming to get us?
Your father will protect us.
Burn this village! Burn it to the ground!
Daddy? Kratos! Mother! No!